different pedagogies. But because our end goal, of course, is student support, we deal a lot with student questions, and the Center for Faculty Excellence is under the Office of Ideas, and IDEA stands for innovation. What is it? And help me out, William. Innovation design for
Yeah,
educational
digital,
something.
innovative, uh, digital
Digital excellence for academic
excellence
support.
and academic success. Yeah.
Yeah, these acronyms. I was like, and so together we have been dealing a lot on the faculty facing side, but because again, most of this has to do with interactions with students and for student success. We're happy to share this discussion with you today.
So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a little activity, a delayed chat. There's only nine of us in the room, so I don't think this would take the full 2 minutes. I'll check in after the first minute goes and see if people are ready to submit. But basically, a delayed chat is you kind of respond to the prompt with your thoughts and ideas before hitting send in the chat. That way, we all kind of respond at the same time and people don't have their answers influenced by early chat submissions. So I'm setting this timer. The prompt is after the timer ends, respond to this question in the chat. What ethical issues are you concerned about with AI? And that could be societal issues, environmental issues, educational issues. What are your concerns when it comes to AI? And if you're already ready to submit, you can submit. I think everybody's kind of got their thoughts started, but the official submission time will do at 2 minutes. Yeah, about 45 seconds left. Okay, so a lot of interesting responses so far. We have things connected to privacy. I don't know if you all have been following headlines in the news, but like people rely on AI for all kinds of things, particularly the larger chatbots like GPT and Gemini. There's people that have developed like parasocial relationships with AI that talk about very deep, intimate, secretive things. And so, yeah, a big concern is privacy and what's happening with our data. Um, I see somebody was talking about like copyright infringement, like if you're an artist or a programmer or something like that, an invasion of that type of privacy. Um, and then we have a couple about learning, like being concerned about learning. And then we also have another one about like general academic dishonesty. So I think for the most part, your concerns kind of align with what we're going to talk about today, and they also align with a majority of the groups that I've connected with about AI as well over the last 3 years.
So, William, can I ask you a question? There
Mhm.
is that concern about students' data and input into the chat GPTs being quote unquote raw material for
Yeah.
learning purposes. How does the chat GPT EDU differ from chatgpt.com?
Um, so essentially, so if you have a personal GPT account, regardless of when you started it, in the terms of agreement, terms of service, it does say that, hey, your data could be used to train the model. Your data isn't going to be like readily identifiable or linked to you. So the so basically they're saying we don't know who's submitting what. We just know that something's being submitted. And so they're saying, therefore, your privacy is protected. And then with the EDU account, there's another safeguard that Fresno State said, we don't even want you to be able to train your larger model with the data that our students put into the ChatGPT EDU model. Now, privacy concerns are valid though, because technically, let's say you get accused of robbing a bank, for example, and the court wants to subpoena OpenAI or Google Gemini for your chat records because they have some suspicion that you planned this out via chat. That gets into a different story in terms of privacy. So technically, your name, account, likeness, and everything is linked to whatever information you're passing through. Just nobody can access that without a whole lot of effort and legal loopholes to jump through. I hope that's clear. It's like clear as
Yeah, that
mud.
is.
It's complicated.
That is, I just didn't want to gloss over that because we are segueing into our key ethical dilemmas, and you all highlighted many of what we had noted here. And to be clear, we don't have certain answers to many of these questions. So, like transparency, can users understand how the system works? I mean, does everyone who engages with ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, Anthropic, whichever, do they understand the actual mechanics of what's going on? And then does that matter? That is a question. Accountability, who is responsible when harm is done? We've seen lots of um,
Yeah,
articles about people who have taken their own lives because they say they maybe have been prompted by ChatGPT that this was a okay or thing, so who's responsible at the end of the day for those actions? And so this again brings up this ethical dilemma of where the tool uh, ends, the tool usage ends, and the personal usage of the person where they take responsibility for action. So where's that line? And then justice, does this reinforce or challenge existing power structures? This is one of the most powerful tools, most monetary generating tools, energy using tools. So are we just, again, propping up big corporations, or is this actually a benefit to society at whole? Like where do those distinctions lie? Privacy, William touched a lot on the privacy, the difference between the public facing ones in our EDU accounts, and then consent. So by engaging with and prompting ChatGPT, are you just implicitly giving your consent for your information to be used? Is that part of the contract? So these are some questions that are have a lot of gray areas to them. We don't necessarily have answers, but they are things you should be aware of that we don't have answers to them necessarily. And so you need to, approach these things with caution, but I don't want to say, but not fearfully, but definitely with some caution.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. I tell people I get most worried when people are like completely anti AI, or they don't use AI at all, or they're not aware of it. Only because like it's good to be aware of it, not that you have to use it. And then I also get worried with people that are like, I use it for everything. Like those two extremes worry me a whole lot. Um, okay, so let's talk about some ethical dilemmas, right? So there has been predictive policing versus community surveillance. So, for example, there's been usage of images and CCTV footage, like camera footage, to implicate people into crimes. Obviously, when these programs were first programmed, and even when the camera was first created, it was created around people who were light complected, only because those were the particular inventors and scientists working on the problem, and those were the people that had the privilege and freedom to be able to work on the problem, and they didn't think to really address issues of hue and color and pigmentation. And so people have gotten falsely accused by AI in the past in terms of CCTV footage. And then Amazon, probably 15 years ago, they were using AI as a hiring tool, and they stopped probably a couple years into it just because the it would reproduce human bias. Like for example, the reason why they went toward it, so they thought like, oh, it'll remove bias from that humans enact in the hiring process. So like discrimination against women or people of color or what have you. And what they quickly found out is that AI was very strategic at being able to find out if someone was a woman or not, because they would remove the names, hoping that that would help like de-gender or de-sex people, so that they won't be discriminated against. But it would pick up on things like, is this a woman's sorority, or is this experience akin to experience that a woman would have? And they would enact some of the same biases, but at scale, so even worse than what humans would. Then there's deep fakes and misinformation. I don't know if you all have seen some of the deep fake capabilities of AI, but it's very convincing in terms of videos that they can produce. So a world leader could say something that's very harmful and damaging to the world. And we have to kind of sit and wait to see, was that a real statement or was that AI? And then consent in AI generated art, voice, and likeness. A couple summers ago, uh, the uh, the writers and actors in Hollywood went on strike, and at the time they were talking a lot about AI being used for their likeness without proper payment compensation, and that's become a real a much bigger issue than we thought back then. I think back then they were definitely ahead of the curve in terms of advocating for that not to happen. Job displacement. So the World Economic Forum has said that there is going to be a loss of jobs due to AI, but there's also going to be some new jobs that we gain due to AI, but there still will be a 14% gap um, in the job loss category. And then who owns the outputs, the prompts, the data? That's another question. So, for example, since ChatGPT can be trained on data that you're giving it, if you're not using your EDU account, let's say you come up with like a script for a TV show. Um, if it trains this model on your script, and then all of a sudden Disney or some parent company that's linked to OpenAI, they release a movie and it looks eerily similar to what you produced, what rights do you have? Can you say that, hey, this is something that I produced? Or is it now because you signed the agreement in order to use the service that they own it? You know, so things like that are coming up. And then, are we learning and thinking critically, or are we regurgitating AI? And so that's a big question that we as a university have been having. So I want to set another timer because we have this question of you all that we're curious about. So take some time in the chat to add other ethical dilemmas or specific examples of the ones that we've already shown. So after 2 minutes, we'll submit. But yeah, are there other ethical dilemmas that you're concerned about regarding AI? Are there or are there specific examples you read about or seen that are related to some of the ones that we've already mentioned? So you can respond in either way, either something specific or something new that we don't have listed here.
And I just want to clarify, if you're giving a specific personal example, don't say John, say my friend or
Yeah,
I heard, so that we respect the privacy of
please.
those around us.
Especially if they happen to be in trio as well.
Yeah.
All right, we got 55 seconds left. You can start submitting if you're already done, but we're just curious about this response here. What ethical dilemmas are on your minds, especially as students at the university? Okay, so first one we have that came in is about hospitals and the health industry. So, working in a hospital setting and seeing providers using AI tools to make charts, which feels like an ethical issue for sure. Yeah, because my health is in jeopardy, right? It takes doctors a long time to get through medical school, and you hope that by how long it takes them and how diligent society says that process is, that you're getting somebody that's confident and that can really support your health and its outcomes. Um,
William, there's a hand raised.
oh, yes, yes.
It's Trio Student Support, so I'm not sure who that is.
I'm sorry, that's me.
Yeah.
Since we were discussing about that point, I completely agree with what William said, but also I feel like since they are using that AI tools which records the all conversation, including the name of the provider,
Hmm.
name of the
Yeah.
interpreter, like used for translation and everything, I feel like we ourselves are giving a pool of information to these companies, like here, see what we
Uh-huh.
have, which patient is what, where what happened. Because definitely, when you discuss
Hmm.
about these things, we know some certain doctor work in that area. The patient is from that area because there are some critical
Right.
cases that are like once a lifetime things. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's critical issue.
Yeah. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you see an ad on your YouTube for a medication that you didn't ask for or that's not covered by your insurance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Couple
yeah.
others in there.
Taylor, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, shared about the videos that have like a private person saying a phrase, but it's completely made up. It's really scary how good those are, for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Yes, and someone else from Trio Support just saying how AI sometimes facial recognition is not the best, and so a banned person could be let in, or vice versa, could misrecognize
Mm-hmm.
someone, so that can be potentially dangerous.
Right. Yep. Yeah. A lot of things to worry about, right?
Right, so this is our black box problem, right? So AI, or artificial intelligence experts, are not fundamentally able to understand or predict how machine learning algorithms function, since there is a predictive model that begins to make its own choices and decisions based on initial training. So this is where that idea comes in, that, AI will start thinking and take over. So Not sure if that's really true. Deep learning systems are now regularly used to make judgments about humans in contexts ranging from medical treatments, and this gets back to your dilemma that you mentioned, to who should get approved for a loan and to which applicants should get a job interview. And that was the Apple or the Amazon,
Amazon. Yep.
Amazon example that you gave. And also, so again, these are some studies that have already been done. In the criminal justice system, AI-based predictive policing algorithms or risk assessment tools are used to recommend sentencing, parole decisions, or determine the likelihood of a defendant reoffending. For example, the COMPAS algorithm is widely used in the US to assess the likelihood that a criminal will reoffend. However, due to its black box nature, defendants, judges, and lawyers cannot understand how the algorithm arrives at its conclusion. Worse, studies have found that COMPAS disproportionately flags Black defendants as higher risk compared to white defendants, even when controlling for actual criminal records. And this is a problem too, because every individual, right, has their own self-determination, their own will to change. And I think those things, they're just looking at statistics and they can't really see to the heart of the person. So if we overly rely on AI to make some of these decisions, I mean, I don't think it's a bad tool to suggest, but never should we rely on it to make those real human decisions.
Yep.
Go ahead, William.
So one concept that we want to impart on y'all is this concept of critical distance. So critical distance is basically this concept that of like how far removed are you from AI in terms of viewing it as a tool? Like you should view it as a tool because that's what it is. A bunch of programmers got together, they trained this computer to comb the internet and look for data to be able to predict what's coming next in a string of words. And so, how can you predict? How critical can you be that what you get out of these things or decisions that are suggested by AI are not actually real? And so, I looked into a bunch of studies, and one study does say that, like when you go onto an airline's website and you have the like chatbot, we as humans, we do like for chatbots in AI to mimic like human conversation. So we do like it to say please and thank you, or that's a great idea. We do like that, and we prefer that over AI or chatbots that are more robotic, right? So that came to be true in the study. But the problem is when we don't have when it's not clear whether this is a person or a machine, that's where we have reservation, right? So we just want to be clear whether or not this is a machine or a person, because the less clear that is, the more skeptical we are, which is a good thing, right? You always want to be skeptical of what you're getting in terms of output from AI. And then this hype cycle chart is essentially a theory that's been in technology for a very long time. So essentially, something new comes out, right? So y'all might be, some of you might be from the Snapchat generation. Before we were talking about TikTok, we were talking about Snapchat. Before we were talking about Snapchat, we were talking about Vine. And so a new technology is released called the technology trigger. And it usually has like a lot of hype around it. Like Snapchat was supposed to be the next big company like Meta or Apple or what have you. And then there's this trough of disillusionment where we're like, oh, well, maybe that's not the best thing for a myriad of reasons. Like, oh, they started placing ads or they're doing this or they're doing that. And then typically something will die in the trough of disillusionment. Like we just will never hear from it again. Like when Vine sold and we got into that trough, like it just never came out, like it never survived. But something like Snapchat, It may not be at its peak of hype, but there's like a plateau of productivity. There's like certain groups of people that use Snapchat for particular reasons, and for certain purposes. And so right now with AI, I think we're kind of going down from this peak of inflated expectations. I think companies who had massive layoffs are now realizing, oh, we got to hire humans back because AI isn't doing exactly what we thought it was going to do. I think us as people, when we heard about all the hype and we actually go and use it, we're like, oh, well, that's not at all what I expected. And so it's kind of going into that trough of disillusionment. And most likely, what will happen is it will come out as some type of utility, right? It will come out as like for academia, like for the university and universities around the world. Yeah, it'll probably continue to be a tool used in learning in some way. For most of the population, though, it'll probably be something that we use that's like embedded in our smartphone to help us with a grocery list or to help us with a recipe, but it's not going to be this kind of all-encompassing thing. That's at least the prediction of most technology experts at this point. But the hype cycle is definitely driven a lot by, and this has been stated before in the chat activities, driven a lot by the 4 or 5 companies, Anthropic, OpenAI, Google. It's driven by them because they're trying to raise funds for investment into these technologies. And so you'll see like Sam Altman or the CEO of Google go on TV and say, "Oh, AI is so intelligent it could take over the world." And then they're like, "Okay, so what are we supposed to do about that?" And they're like, "Oh, well, you have to get good at using AI to make sure that you're not going to be replaced." And so like it's like the person that's creating the problem is selling you the solution, right? So just beware of that.
Okay, so now we'd like to do another activity, and we want to know where you draw the line. So we have a couple of three actually, different scenarios. And so we want you to think about it and then drop your answer into the chat. I'll read the first one and we'll give you a few seconds and we can discuss and then so on. So scenario number 1 involves a faculty member. A professor trains a private AI tutor on their own lecture notes, slides, and past student questions. It answers current questions 24/7, but students begin relying on it instead of attending class or engaging with peers. So I'd like to know just kind of quickly in the chat, is this going too far with AI on the faculty's behalf? Should they not make a bot, a tutor bot? What do you think? Or are the students going too far and relying too much on AI? Where do we draw the line? If you have a thought, go ahead and put it in there in the chat. Anyone at all? No gray area? You're like, this is clear.
This is the most difficult for me.
This one?
Yeah.
All right, so this person responded, I think it's okay to train AI, but the fact it has been replaced with original class is a problem. Yes, if it did. I'm not sure that this particular faculty member, what I'm going to say, it meant it to replace class, but that students now are using it instead of going to class. So maybe the messaging is unclear by the professor, the faculty member, that this is a revision tool and not something in lieu of class. So let me see what this other person wrote. I believe it's fine for professor to create this sort of AI, but I think it's important that they emphasize it should not be the number one source of learning. Good. Thank you for that. I concur. I think it is a useful tool the way that the professor is using it. It can help people with social anxiety or illness in this situation. Good. I like that observation also. I think it's more the student's fault because they are choosing to not go to class or reach out to someone else. Thank you. I think those are great. I think sometimes too, though, professors get overly eager, and maybe I would think, I'm thinking as a professor, not make it available 24/7, but maybe a week before the exam, so that students might be forced to come to class, and then I will make it available. I'm just trying to think of ways to mitigate some of the absenteeism. But those are
That
great
makes sense.
observations. Here's a scenario two with the staff. An academic advisor uses AI to automatically generate personalized course schedules and degree plans. It saves time, but it occasionally recommends outdated or inappropriate courses due to bad data. What do you think about this situation? So imagine your academic advisor using AI to help generate your schedule or update your degree plan. Any thoughts on that?
Even if it's a short response,
Yeah.
um, that's a no for me, or that's okay.
Good. I
Mm,
think this is very risky. It could potentially delay a student's academic career. This is similar to coding. A lot of people use it to create a website, but it's up to the person to go through and make sure everything is correct and working. The same applies here. Very good.
mm, mm.
Yep. I will say too, I'm going to be on the advocate for the advisor. Sometimes departments change the schedule at the last minute and it's no fault of theirs. You're like, this is your schedule. And then you're like, that's not offered. And they had to cancel it. The scenario is going too far with AI because they're using it to do their whole job. Okay. If they were to review it beforehand, then it could be acceptable. All right, good. So maybe
Mhm.
double check the work. I like that.
And I think that idea of automatically, is like
Mm,
maybe not so automatically.
yeah. All right, our last scenario is about a student. So a student is finishing a major assignment in a class where AI is allowed for quote unquote support, but not for doing the work. They use AI to clarify the prompt and clean up the writing, then follow a friend's advice to look at an AI generated example, quote, just to be safe, end quote. So after submitting the assignment, the student realizes they relied on that example more than they intended and starts to wonder if they crossed a line. What do you think? Did the student cross a line or not? How do you know? Anybody? If you were the student, maybe would you think that you were okay because it was allowed for support, or would you think you'd crossed a line if you read it and thought, "Ooh, that's close to the prompt, the
Mm.
AI generated example"? Well, that one seems to have stumped you all. What do you think, William?
I'm kind of waiting to see. Okay, I got one.
Well,
Yeah, I'm kind of landing in in the same places as, as the two comments that came through. So one comment was thinking about like what does support really mean? Like that's a very broad statement to place in the syllabus. Like how does that look? And how do I do it as a student? That would be my first question. And then the other person said, if as long as the person didn't copy word for word, it should be okay. That's also interesting to me because one thing that I will often ask faculty is how many times uh, would somebody need to prompt AI to generate a paper? before it becomes their own thoughts. Like how many times will they need to correct it or input their notes or do whatever before it comes theirs. And so yeah, that's also very interesting. Um, yeah, and yeah, I understand what Lisa's saying too. It does depend on each person and how much they use it. And I think that's where ethics gets so tricky is because it's our individual kind of evaluation of like, is this violating my learning values or not? And if it is, maybe I should have had a conversation with the professor about like being uncertain about the assignment or not having the time to do the assignment before relying on AI first.
Very good. And as I will say, as a faculty member, I think that is too vague, saying you can rely on it for support. However, having said that, if you already had an answer and you already cleaned it up with, use AI to clean it up, and then you looked at the example, if your
Then you
examples
change
were
it. Yeah,
close, then I would say you're fine. If you dramatically altered your answer based on the
because of the example. Yeah.
because of the example, then I would lean towards not. But I agree, using unclear language as a professor is also my responsibility to make sure that my instructions and my intent is clear.
Mhm. So then we're looking at why rules feel so inconsistent. Like I know y'all probably have 4 or 5 courses at the moment, and you might have 4 or 5 different approaches to what you can and can't do with AI in the classroom. So, enforcement does not equal clarity, and I think we saw that in that last scenario. Like Natalie was saying, support. What does support mean? What does support look like? How do I use it for support? The classroom is not, but also the classroom is not a one-way communication, right? So, I think a reasonable person could have like an AI statement and say use it for support, and they might be making the assumption that like, oh, these are mostly juniors in this class, they should know what that means. Um, and the reality is, if you don't, as a student, you hopefully you develop the agency to tell the professor, I don't know what support means here. Can you break that down? And then different courses require different tools, right? So the example I always give, right, is I think about my own journey as a student. I think about in some of my upper division classes with the amount of writing I had to do, and I had a major that like we crossed into based on our options. We were crossing the MLA sometimes, we were crossing the APA, we were crossing the Chicago style. Based on that, I was thinking like, oh, as a junior senior, I would definitely made use of AI. Um, but I also think about myself as a first year freshman, and I like if I was my own professor or parent, I would have said, do not use AI because you don't know enough yet. You don't have enough knowledge to actually leverage it in a healthy way. So yeah, different tools, different courses require different tools for different reasons. Professors are different. Like all of us, we have our own kind of ethical dilemmas that we brought up, right? Some of us are concerned about privacy. Some of us are concerned about the environment. Sometimes you're going to have a professor that may be so concerned about privacy, they're concerned about their own privacy, therefore they don't use AI. And they're also concerned about your privacy, and they don't want you to use AI, right? And or it could be more for an academic or critical thinking reason. There's a time and a place for AI use, and that's kind of the first example I gave. Like, um, for example, our lower division GE courses they require 2,000. Is it 2,000 words of writing for lower division, Natalie?
1,000.
1,000 words of writing. Our upper division courses they require 2,000. Then our upper division writing courses require is that 4,000 or five?
Upper division, well, do you mean W courses?
Yeah,
W courses
W
are
courses.
5,000.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And so that's like a skill requirement for the course. That's part of the learning of the course. And so AI may not have a place there for the actual writing process, right? And that's perfectly reasonable for a professor to put forward. And then professors don't want to patronize you, so they don't want to be like that overbearing parent that says like you can't do this, you can't do that. Like the rules at the swimming pool, like a bunch of no's. But also, they might not be clear on what you understand coming into a course. So it should be a two-way conversation, right? They don't want to come off as overbearing or too strict, and they want to give you your own agency, and they want to provide a lot of trust. But also, they may like not be descriptive enough or provide a clear enough example because they want to kind of encourage you being an adult and your agency.
So, what is generally okay to use then? And I just want to add one comment based on what William was saying about faculty not wanting to patronize students. We are constantly told that you all are um, digital natives, that like you use this stuff all the time. You know better than the professors how this stuff works because you are constantly online, and I have found that's not actually the case. So some students definitely are, and some are not. And so, as a faculty member, we should also not assume that everyone knows how to use every tool all the time. So it is generally okay. You run your thoughts about how you want to use AI by your professor. If you would like to use AI to brainstorm, help with an outline, before you do that, if it's not explicitly stated in the syllabus what you can and cannot do, just ask the professor. If you're afraid to do it in class, believe me, if you do it in class, every student will thank you for that. So that's a big thumbs up. But if you're too embarrassed, email them and just say, this is what I'd like to do. Do I have your permission? If they do have a statement and it's unclear, like it has that support, ask what does support mean? Again, seek clarification. But these tools, I would think, would be allowed by anybody. You can create an exercise, ask one of the AI tools, create an exercise for me to study. I tell my French classes all the time, create an exercise using these 5 verbs in the present tense so I can practice conjugating. And it can spit that out and you can use that to practice so that to prepare yourself for the test. Have it create flashcards based on your notes, a vocabulary list, formulas if you need to know what formulas are and what they do. All of these things can be done quickly and easily. Create a practice exam based on my notes in the same way as practice exercises. Or you can even say, help me find 6 credible sources on this topic. Sometimes I have to admit, our library search engine is not super great. It'll come up with 150 things because it just does. So if you can come up, your job though is to verify that these sources do in fact exist and then get the actual reference for those. But those are ways that ChatGPT can speed up and help you be better students. And I think any professor would think that those would be legit ways to use these tools.
Hmm.
Do you
And
have
when
any?
it comes to, oh yeah, I'll add one that last one. When it comes to writing and sources, those three, perplexity, consensus, and side paper, like we also have to get out of this bubble of thinking that GPT is the only uh, AI or that Gemini is the only AI. There's a bunch of specifically trained AI, like Perplexity, Consensus, and SciPaper, that are specifically about research, and they're not going to hallucinate fake sources and fake information. And then we get to like the larger issues, right? We talked about some of this stuff already, but there's just inherent bias in the way AI models are programmed and developed and trained. That's going to have an impact on us as people and as a society, right? And part of our exploration in college is that y'all are exploring the tools, y'all are aware of the tools, and then therefore when you become a doctor or a lawyer or a congresspeople or a social worker, you have more care with using some of those, and you have more of a platform to advocate for regulation and things in the industry.
So AI and resource equity, of course, this is always a major concern for us at Fresno State and the CSU is that digital divide, the access to tools. And that is one of the reasons why the CSU has provided ChatGPT to all students, because the free platform, the free entries into these platforms, have very limited capabilities. So the cost and infrastructure struggles with internet access, the knowledge and exposure to technology, all of these can widen that divide. And so we'd really like to help you, reduce that divide. AI marketing and ag targeting are predicted to increase consumerism. That's obviously a concern. Environmental strain due to computing power required to run models. I read about recently about in Georgia, they're trying to restrict the number of these power, you know, hugely power consuming AI, or what do you call it?
Oh,
Data
server farms?
data centers
Yeah, the
to
data centers.
go
Yeah.
into. Um, and then just the ChatGPT alone costs 700,000 or 0.36 cents per query to operate, which is a huge expense. And this is why it's like the number one growing, stock market thing. Anyhow, all this to say is that these are still concerns. So I I don't know. I'm trying to like wrap this up sort of. William, go ahead and we're trying to help you, bridge that gap by offering some, and helping you with some of these free tools, but it doesn't eliminate the cost over all of these
Right.
things.
Yeah. There's a ton of costs.
Yeah.
Mind you, the OpenAI and the newer companies, they're not profitable, right? They're not
Yeah.
making a profit. They're
Mhm.
raising funds. Right now, it costs them way more to operate AI chatbots than it's actually worth. But they're getting investment to hope that down the line they can mitigate the cost enough to where it will be profitable. So mitigating bias in AI, right? So y'all are going on to be future professionals, and so what we really need is a more diverse tech industry, more diverse data sets, transparent algorithms that we can actually track what's happening and what's going on, regular audits and testing, and then human oversight and ethical review boards when it comes to AI usage. And then I love this quote: AI mirrors the society it learns from. To change AI, we must first change ourselves. Yeah, and with that said, we have this last question for you. And I'll start the timer. But basically in the chat or over audio, like what are some characteristics of your professors that you feel comfortable communicating with versus characteristics of your professors that you don't feel comfortable communicating with? Because we think that like when it comes to AI, that's like 90% of the battle is are things clearly stated in the classroom. Or do you feel comfortable enough to reach out to the professor when you're under a lot of pressure? Because we don't think the students just go on to use AI so that they can relax the other 36 hours in a week. We think that we have a lot of responsibility. There's not enough time. Um, we haven't learned what we feel we should learn in the classroom. And so you feel that pressure to maybe use it. So this question is, I'm sure with some professors you feel comfortable asking for extensions or communicating about like how you can use AI, and with other professors you don't. And we're kind of wondering what is the key, what are the key differences there? And yeah, you can put it in the chat whenever you want to. You can say it over audio. Oh, yes.
Hi. I personally believe that there are some professors who are like very strict in the sense that I personally feel overwhelmed to even ask a question. So asking about
Mm,
AI is far more, is a
right,
very far question. Like, I don't even feel like comfortable asking any question at all because it feels like
mm,
whatever you say, it's gonna, come back with like some bad effect. Um,
right.
And I do understand that. I feel like sometimes students are afraid to ask the question because then they're automatically putting a target on their back as like, I'm going to use AI. So I don't want to imply that I'm going to use AI by asking about AI. Um, so I do understand that. But if if something is in the syllabus and it's unclear, I think that's the best way to approach it. Like, this is unclear in the syllabus. You state this. I'd like a little more clarity on it instead of saying, I'd like to use AI. So tell me how,
Also,
uh,
And
go ahead.
one I'm sorry, girlie. Go ahead.
also, I feel like there is no harm in using AI when you are using it for good reasons. Say, for helping you to learn the concept if you're not able to understand it in the class. And yes, it's a bad thing if you would say, write it down for me, write my homework, do this, that like depletes and stops your creativity.
Mhm.
Um, it depends upon like how disciplined and true, honest you are with your own very self and what you want to do in your future. If you make your life easy now, I think it will be difficult in the future because definitely if AI comes in, you have to be very, very competitive in
Mm,
order to compete with the other students who are like creative. They can think beyond this AI thing because at the end of the day, AI is something which is made by a human. So nothing
right.
can exceed a human brain. So if I would use it right now for everything which I shouldn't be using, I'm kind of doing it wrong with my own very self. Um, so it depends upon us. We should be accountable for our own very actions. And regarding this question again, as Natalie said, yeah, it's if it's written in the syllabus, it helps. It's very clear. But if the professor is tough and then you don't know it's not written in the
Right.
syllabus, you don't know what to do because if you say ask it in the beginning throughout the semester, the professor is gonna shoot your back, saying that this person asked me this question in the beginning. I pretty much think he or she have used AI in his or writings or whatever where,
Mhm,
place
mhm. Yeah.
he would be checking. So you need to get more cautious. And I personally am very much aware of my grades. I'm like, I do not need to, I mean, I don't want to do anything which will, put my grades at stake. So I just keep quiet. If I see the professor in front of me is not good enough, feeling I'm not good enough to talk to them. But I think, yeah, there is some problem in there.
Yeah.
I do hear that. And I was just going to follow up because someone else was saying here, I feel like interrupting something super important to ask a question for clarifying, and then if you wait till the end. So send an email right away after a class if that's the case, if you feel like you can't approach the professor, if you feel like interrupting at that moment. And then, I don't want to say make it, casual, breezy, but just say something occurred to me when you were talking and I want to follow up. This was unclear to me. I'd like some clarification. I welcome those emails. I really do. And then also, I mean, personally, when I'm not clear, I feel bad. So I really want to then go back the next class time and clarify, or sometimes I'll even sit down and email. This was unclear when I said this about this assignment. Please understand I meant this. Or so I know sometimes it does feel scary, but your fellow students will thank you for asking.
Right. And then a couple things that that I wanted to add is like to a lot of folks are talking about that idea of like in the syllabus it mentions don't ask a question unless you review the syllabus first. And that comes off very abrasive. And so one thing that Nellie and I didn't mention is we do offer courses for faculty where we train them on how to, have better interactions in the classroom or uh, help, help them with integrating activities that are better for learning. And one thing that we do tell them about is like whatever small word they use in the syllabus, for example, students will take, at face value. And a lot of times when we talk to faculty, they're just like y'all, where they're like very introverted and they're very shy. And part of the job is they have to stand up there for 50 minutes and lecture. But because they're introverted and shy, they're like, oh, I just tell them to look in the syllabus because, they're kind of fearful of interactions. And so I think as a university and as a society, we got to figure out how do we communicate and stay open with one another. And I think y'all provided some really great tips in there is having professors that consistently remind you it's okay to ask me questions, it's okay to come to my office hours, it's okay to email me. Yeah. But thank y'all for
Excellent
this
conversation.
opportunity.
So, yes, I
Mhm.
was going to say thank you for this excellent conversation. William's going to talk about a few opportunities for you.
So we have AI workshops now for students through the Discovery Hub. You can scan the QR code that's right here. We can send the slideshow to Darlene to send out later. But essentially, we have a myriad of topics from like how do you start your ChatGPT account, your ChatGPT EU account, to what's the best way to utilize AI in certain types of courses. So we're going to have a workshop every Wednesday at 9 a.m. And so, yeah, if you're able to stop by or interested in the topics, you can scan the QR code. You can come by when it's not on a Wednesday when it's not 9 o'clock. Like, let's say you have a class at that time, and just ask our guides, like, "Hey, I need help understanding this. Y'all had a workshop on this topic. I wasn't able to make it, but I wanna understand what some of the information that was given." So, yeah. And then we also have a full online course that you can go through that will introduce you to different tools and give you different skills around actually using AI effectively. So you can scan this QR code and take that course. It's a asynchronous Canvas course that you kind of go through at your own pace. We have that as a resource as well. Yeah. But if you have any questions, you can email them to discovery@mail.federalstate.edu. Thank
Thank
you
you. I
for
know
your
we went
time.
a little over time, but you
Yeah,
guys
no.
are great participants. So I really appreciate your interactive communications in the chat and your questions. It was fabulous. I hope you learned something. And again, all the professors are learning right along with you. We're navigating it
Yeah,
at the same time. So I wish I could say these are all the answers, but it's just not that clear yet.
yeah,
So ask your professors is my number one piece of advice.
Thank
yeah.
you. Thank you so much, Natalie. Thank you so much, William.
You're very
I,
welcome.
I I'm very grateful, and I don't have enough words to thank you because I feel like the session was very much informative. I really personally felt that way. Thank you so very much. And I have shared a link with all the students in the chat if they can please fill it up for their attendance confirmation. And I have a request at the end, William, if you can please share those two links that you were showing up for the scanning part
Mhm,
so that we
mhm.
can send it to
Yeah,
our students and then they can
yeah.
enroll it
Let me do
in
that.
it. That would be
Let
great.
me do.
But that'll be all. Do you have anything to say, Natalie?
Oh no, I was just gonna say, yeah, thanks again.
Thank you so very much. I really appreciate you guys that you came in and gave us your, very important time. I know it's very difficult to take out some time from your busy schedules, but thank you so very much. I would say I will stop the meeting now because we are over time. But thank you so very much, everyone. Have a good one. Bye bye.
Thank you.